Now, a Canadian doctor credited with keeping thalidomide out of the U.S. has died. Dr. Frances Kelsey showed unflinching courage in the face of massive pressure and spared that country from an epidemic of birth defects caused by a drug intended to prevent morning sickness.
In Act 1, the beginning, a pharmaceutical company visited her office 50 times in 18 months. They called her bosses. They filed complaints. They showed up at her door again and again, demanding one thing: sign the paper. She never did. And because of that, 10,000 children who would have been born without arms or legs were born healthy instead. This is the story of Frances Kelsey, a woman nobody sent, nobody elected, nobody asked to be a hero. She just kept saying no. Act 2, the setup. 1960. Frances Kelsey is 45 years old. She has a PhD in pharmacology. She has spent decades studying how drugs move through the human body and what happens when they go wrong. She's just taken a new job as a medical reviewer at the FDA in Washington, D.C. Her first assignment looks routine. A pharmaceutical company called Richardson Merrill has applied to sell a drug called Thalidomide in the United States. The drug is already approved in Canada, Germany, Britain, and over 20 other countries. It's marketed as remarkably safe, prescribed to pregnant women for morning sickness. The company expects a quick approval. They have not met Frances Kelsey.
A stubborn stickler of a medical officer in the Food and Drug Administration, Dr. Frances Kelsey, who came originally from Cobble Hill, British Columbia, and was educated at McGill University in Montreal. She refused to approve sale of the drug in the United States.
Act 3, the red flags. Kelsey opens the application file and starts reading. Something is wrong. The clinical reports don't read like science. They read like testimonials. There are no rigorous trials. The safety data is incomplete, vague, full of gaps that nobody seems to have questioned. Then she finds something worse. A report in the British Medical Journal. Patients who had been taking thalidomide long-term were developing nerve damage in their hands and feet, numbness, pain, permanent damage. Nobody at the company mentioned this. And then, the thought that keeps her up at night. She remembers her earlier research, how certain drugs don't stay in the mother's bloodstream, how they cross the placental barrier, how they reach the unborn child. What does thalidomide do to a fetus? Nobody knows, because nobody tested it. Kelsey rejects the application. She requests more data.
We all felt the initial submission was inadequate to show safety.
Act 4, the pressure. Richardson Merrill resubmits. She rejects it again. Here's what most people don't know about FDA rules at the time. The agency could only delay approval by 60 days before a company could resubmit, which means Kelsey had to come up with new, legitimate scientific objections every single 60 days to keep blocking the drug. For over a year, she does exactly that. And the company's response? War. Phone calls to her office, personal visits, formal complaints filed directly to her superiors. Company representatives describe her as unreasonable, obstructionist, difficult. Over 18 months, they show up at her office approximately 50 times, 50 visits, 50 attempts to break her. To their credit, her bosses back her every single time. And Kelsey keeps requesting data the company either cannot or will not provide. She doesn't move.
There have been reports that the company making the drug in the United States put some pressure on you to get it approved. Did it? And is this a normal thing with most new drugs?
Yes, usually the companies are eager to get it on. It's just a matter of when the pressure becomes excessive and our judgment may be interfered with.
And does this happen often, or?
Well, it's a hazard if the pressure is too great.
Act 5, the Catastrophe, late 1961. The news arrives from Europe. Doctors in Germany and the United Kingdom are delivering an alarming number of babies with catastrophic deformities, a condition called phocomelia, where arms and legs are severely shortened or missing entirely, hands growing directly from shoulders, feet from hips. The common link is devastating. Their mothers had taken thalidomide during pregnancy. Exactly as Kelsey feared, the drug had crossed the placental barrier, and it had done something to those developing children that no one had tested for, no one had looked for, no one had stopped to ask about. In 46 countries, more than 10,000 children were born with thalidomide-related birth defects. Thousands more died, stillborn, miscarried, never counted. In March 1962, Richardson Merrill quietly withdrew their FDA application. Act 6, the numbers. In the United States, 17 confirmed cases, 17 in a country of nearly 200 million people, all traced back to unauthorized sample doses the company had already distributed to doctors before approval. 17. While Europe counted its thousands, the difference between those two numbers, between 17 and 10,000, is one woman, sitting at a desk in Washington, reading files nobody else read carefully enough, asking questions nobody else thought to ask, and saying no when the entire industry told her to say yes. Act 7. The Aftermath. In July 1962, a Washington Post reporter puts Kelsey's story on the front page. The public reaction is immediate, bipartisan, furious in the right direction.
Dr. Morell in Ottawa just explained that the Canadian Food and Drug Directorate is limited in its powers. It can't be an all-powerful guardian of every mouthful of food and pill that's swallowed. Is that pretty much the same story with the Food and Drug Administration here?
I think we have the same problems that they do, yes.
Is there any way that this can be overcome, or is it just a...
Well, we have such a vast job and shortage of personnel and of budget that I think any new laws or regulations that may help us to tighten up and make easier our task for evaluation.
By October, Congress passes the Kefauver-Harris Amendment unanimously. For the first time in American history, pharmaceutical companies are required to prove not just that a drug is safe, but that it actually works. Informed patient consent becomes mandatory in clinical trials. Adverse reactions must be reported to the FDA. It rewrites drug regulation in America and influences standards worldwide. President John F. Kennedy presents Kelsey with the President's Award for Distinguished Federal Civilian Service, only the second woman ever to receive it. She insists her colleagues who supported her deserve equal recognition. Of course she does. Act 8. The Close. Frances Kelsey worked at the FDA for over 45 years. She retired at 90. She died on August 7, 2015. She was 101 years old. She never sought fame, never gave many interviews, never wrote a memoir about the time she went to war with an entire pharmaceutical company and won. She just kept showing up, kept reading the files, kept asking the question nobody wanted her to ask. 10,000 children in 46 countries were born without limbs. In America, 17. That gap, that number, that distance between catastrophe and safety, that's not a policy, that's not a law, that's not a system. That's one person who refused to be pressured into silence. She had no army, no authority beyond her desk and her judgment. She had a stack of incomplete files, a sharp mind, and the ability to say no 50 times to people who had every institutional reason to make her say yes. Sometimes one person is enough. Sometimes one person is everything.